Seeing as Moon Knight is set to release on Disney Plus very soon, why not take a look at the hero's greatest villains that have been featured in his stories throughout the years? Like all of these top 10 videos I make, these choices are entirely my own, so if I miss any characters you would have included on your list, just leave them in the comment section down below. I'm not all that familiar with Moon Knight compared to many other Marvel superheroes, so I'm bound to miss a few. It happens. Don't take it personal. Starting off the list at number 10, we have Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. Russell is a man suffering from an ancient curse that transforms him into a werewolf during nights of a full moon. He attempts to harness the power of his curse in order to act as a vigilante. Werewolf by Night is a heroic character, but did act as Moon Knight's first adversary in comics, because Mark Spector was originally depicted as a villain. He had been hired to kill Russell by the Committee, a secretive group of anonymous businessmen and financiers. Moon Knight would turn on his employers and become a vigilante himself, which pissed off the Committee, who would make several attempts to systematically destroy Mark Spector over the years, hiring a wide range of assassins and mercenaries to do him in. Moving on to number 9 with the Zapata Brothers, a pair of brothers, professional luchadors from Mexico, who are also gun-wielding mercenaries who drive around in a monster truck. As a fan of professional wrestling, at least at one point in my life, this duo of villains stand out to me. Sure, it's a ridiculous concept, but this is comic books, and my kind of crazy. They are unique, to say the very least. What's hilarious is that they even tag each other in and out during conflict. It's awesome. Next up at number 8 is Anthony Masters, known as Taskmaster, who has the natural ability to mimic any fighting style or athletic skill he observes, using what he refers to as photographic reflexes. I have spoken about Taskmaster several times on this channel. He's an incredibly cool character. During the 2006 Moon Knight series, he had been hired to kill Mark Spector by the Committee. At number 7, we have Morpheus, a man by the name of Robert Markham, who had contracted a unique viral infection that affected his DNA. In an attempt to cure it, he would take an experimental drug which altered his physical appearance, made it so that he no longer needed sleep, and imbued him with psionic abilities. These abilities allow him to release powerful blasts of psychic energy out of his body and manipulate people through their dreams. Next up at number 6, we have Jeffrey Wilde, Midnight, the son of an older Moon Knight enemy known as Midnight Man, a costumed art and jewelry thief who always committed his crimes at the stroke of midnight. Following the death of his father, Wilde would learn the tricks of the trade, and at first would be the sidekick of Moon Knight, but unfortunately, in time, would turn into a villain. This was due to Moon Knight believing Midnight had died at the hands of the Secret Empire, a branch of the Nazi organization Hydra. In actuality, the Secret Empire would rebuild Midnight into a cyborg who swore revenge against his former partner Moon Knight for, in his eyes, leaving him to die all those years ago. Not only would Wilde be turned into a cyborg, but at one point would don a costume similar to his former partner's. Their battle ended with Moon Knight stabbing Wilde in the mouth with a large hand of a clock, killing him. Moving on to number 5 with Scarlet Fasanera, also known as the Stained Glass Scarlet, a former nun who would become a vigilante, fueled by the death of her son, who she had been forced to kill. She hunts down criminals, those responsible for her son's criminal path, leaving behind an S within a diamond, usually drawn with lipstick, as a calling card. Her violent and murderous methods catch the attention of Moon Knight, who gets in the way of her mission, and thus conflict ensues. In more recent stories, she has been given superpowers, the ability to manipulate shards of glass. She even holds her own against Khonshu, so she's basically a god herself now. It's crazy. At number 4, we have Carson Knowles, the Black Spectre. Knowles is a Vietnam veteran who returned from war, only to find society had turned its back on him. Knowles would plan on destroying the city that mistreated him, New York, by running for mayor. He would create a criminal identity inspired by Moon Knight in order to intimidate and blackmail his opponents in the hopes of winning the election. He would cross paths with Moon Knight on multiple occasions. One of the more prominent ones was when he went on a killing spree, carving crescent shapes into the foreheads of his victims, attempting to frame his foe for their deaths. He would then battle Moon Knight on a rooftop and reveal his intention to use nanites to force an entire crowd to kill themselves, which is just sadistic. Next up at number 3 is the Sun King, a man with pyrokinetic abilities who had a troubled upbringing, using his powers to commit arson, and was even responsible for the deaths of 2 men while serving in the army. He would be incarcerated at the Ravencroft Sanatorium, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and would become obsessed with the sun god Amun-Ra from Egyptian mythology. Being that Khonshu was the moon god, Sun King would believe himself to be the sworn enemy of Moon Knight. Sun King is heavily religious and would view himself as a god amongst men, amassing a large group of cult-like followers that worship the very ground he stands on. Moving on to number 2, we have the estranged psychopathic brother of Moon Knight, named Randall Spector, also known as Shadow Knight. Much like Mark, Randall had been a mercenary, and the 2 brothers had been sent on separate missions in the Middle East, both leading to them crawling for their lives towards the temple of Khonshu. Mark had been the lucky one, and was given redemption at the hands of the moon god Khonshu, as Randall could only look on. Randall would end up exploring the rest of the tomb, and found papyrus scrolls that spoke of a prophecy involving the death of one Moon Knight in order to give power to another. Randall would believe it to be destiny at play, seeing himself as the true heir of Khonshu's power, and not his brother. Randall would join the cult of Khonshu, a group of extremists who worshipped the moon god, led by a woman named Sandal Sworn, Nephthys. The cult of Khonshu's mission was to replace the current Moon Knight with their Shadow Knight, Randall Spector. Randall had resented his brother because Mark had always been stronger than him, physically and emotionally, and was the luckier one, who always seemed to have more than he did. Shadow Knight was simply a copycat Moon Knight at first, sharing similar combat abilities, having both been mercenaries, but would end up getting some sort of electrical light-based powers, which is really cool, the result of several lunar treatments by the cult of Khonshu. And finally, at number 1, we have Raoul Bushman, easily Moon Knight's most intense and bitter rival, in my opinion. Bushman had worked as a mercenary alongside Mark Spector, and during a mission the 2 of them had, while at the border of Sudan and Egypt, they would come across an archaeologist and his daughter, who had found some ancient Egyptian gold. Bushman would plan on stealing this gold, and would kill the archaeologist. When he attempted to kill the girl as well, Spectre stepped in, and would be mortally wounded by Bushman, and left for dead in the desert as a result. Spectre would come too, roam the desert, and find the temple of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, and, depending on the incarnation, typically dies from his wounds at the base of Khonshu's statue, where his spirit interacts with the moon god, who offers to save Spectre in exchange for his service, becoming an avatar and warrior that would vow to protect and avenge the innocent. After becoming Moon Knight, Spectre would seek revenge against Bushman, and, during one of their many battles, would carve off Bushman's face using one of his throwable crescent darts. Nasty. And I am just going to say right now, before I end this video, that while Khonshu has been depicted as a very controlling and manipulative force in a few Moon Knight stories, being responsible for Mark Spector's multiple personalities and overall psychological issues, it didn't feel right to include him on this list as a villain, at least not in a traditional sense. Yes, Khonshu can be portrayed as an antagonist. He's said and done some pretty fucked up shit to Mark Spector, even contradicted a few of his own beliefs, but then again, he is also a god with specific intentions. Who are we to say he's wrong? Well, that's gonna do it for this video, my top 10 Moon Knight villains. If there are any villains you enjoy from Moon Knight stories that you feel should have been included, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more like it, think about supporting the channel by subscribing and sharing my videos to anyone you think might enjoy this kind of stuff. I will see you all in the next one. Take care and stay nerdy.